Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's show. And if you're joining for the first time, this is part of our industry series for which we meet every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. We review one vendor or the solution. So today we have one of the hardest names, I guess, in the S&OP community. It's called Anaplan. So we are going to have a lot of fun discussing that. Before we do that, we are going to start with everybody's intros. I am going to start with my quick intro. If you still don't know me, Sam Gupta, principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent ERP and digital transformation consulting firm. On that note, Dave, can I ask you to introduce yourself next?
Sure. Thanks, Sam. Hey, everybody. My name is Dave Crysler, and I own and operate a consulting business working with leaders in manufacturing, and we help them to systemize their business and achieve growth. And I come to you with more than 20 years of operational experience in various operational leadership roles, and excited to be here with the both of you tonight.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Dave. Andy, can I ask you to go next?
Yeah, of course, Sam. And yeah, I don't know you either, Sam. So
you don't know me. Okay.
My name's Andy Pratico. Thank you for asking me to attend, Sam. As always, I've been involved in ERP software for manufacturers pretty much all my life. I worked all over North America. I worked with over 1,000 manufacturers in my career. And I also have a published book on how to evaluate ERP software, and I put on webinars teaching people similar topics. In fact, I have one coming up on Thursday this week at 9:00 Pacific, and it'll be on my LinkedIn profile. Anybody's interested. Thank you so much.
Of course. And guys, please check the book as well as the webinar. Andy is always trying to help the community. So please do check. On that note, Andy, you missed last week. We made some changes, I guess. So now we have a little written commentary for our briefing to provide slightly more visual enforcement. But I'll start with the briefing the way we start for any solutions. So overall, and I don't know if you guys have come across, if you have any sort of experience, either working for any of your engagements or, for the companies that you have worked with. But overall, when you look at the Anaplan solution, the whole idea of Anaplan is connected planning. Okay, so this is a very interesting take compared to other S&OP or the FP&A solutions that we have reviewed. By the way, just to be clear, I guess I don't think we have reviewed any of the FP&A solutions so far. And if you guys are not familiar with these terms, FP&A stands for financial planning and analysis. That is one software category. There are many different software that are there, and the software vendor that are very popular. And Andy, I'm pretty sure you have come across them. The names are going to be, Profixes of the world, Venas of the world. You might have come across Planful. That is one of the FP&A vendor. Oracle has substantial market share. Their traditional application was always Hyperion. NetSuite has the integrated FP&A component, so they are trying to sell NetSuite components. So these are all FP&A vendors. S&OP is a very interesting market as well. Sometimes the S&OP platforms are going to be standalone. Sometimes they are going to be part of the supply chain suite. So I don't know how to describe this, but I guess, the best way to understand this is going to be in terms of a Venn diagram. Okay. And the Venn diagram is going to be between your S&OP suite as well as your, this one, the whole planning suite, I guess. So for Anaplan, the best way to understand this is going to be, it is trying to merge all of those planning components as opposed to merging the execution component. In some industries, merging all of those planning components are going to be critical. In some industries, you have to have those execution component. For example, let's say if you look at retail, even though Anaplan targets retail as well, but in retail, you are going to require a lot more execution component that need to be tightly bundled with your planning platform. So even if your FP&A component is not going to be tightly bundled with your S&OP, that might be okay. But again, Anaplan takes a very different approach. They are combining S&OP, FP&A, and any other planning so that all of your planning scenarios are going to be connected. You are going to get end-to-end planning. So it's a very different approach in general of the architecture. Overall, I guess what else did we not cover? In terms of the S&OP solutions, the comparable are going to be O9 we covered last week. Connexus is another one. But I mean, they are not going to do FP&A. Their responsibility ends with the S&OP. They might do a little bit of supplier collaboration. They are going to have a little bit of capabilities from your Blue Yonders of the world, E2 Opens of the world. But again, their workflow is very limited to just the sales and operations planning. That's where they excel at. They don't get into the financial planning. Sometimes they might do workforce planning, but that's pretty much the extent. They are trying to do a little bit of sales and marketing planning as well. But again, it's very, very, very lean. Anaplan is trying to do the connected planning, and that's why they are going to be slightly more industry agnostic. The kind of approach that Anaplan takes is a very technical platform in general. So they are not going to have as many prescriptive workflows, and that is the second layer that we generally touch as part of the briefing. That when you look at, for example, solutions such as your Connexus, or you are going to look at O9, they are going to have slightly more prescriptive workflow on top of the platform. With Anaplan, you are developing all of that. With technical platforms, generally, you are going to have a lot more flexibility. So planners are going to love that, but then you increase the consulting cost. So those are going to be some of the pros and cons overall, of these two. Marketing planning in general is very new in the market. I don't know how many companies are able to do that. And Dave, I don't know whether you remember this from the last session. We saw heavy focus on trade promotions planning. With your O9 as well as E2 Open, in my mind, that is also part of that marketing component, because MDF, PDF, all of these terms, and Andy, I'm pretty sure you are familiar with them. Marketing development fund, business development fund that you are going to share with your suppliers. That is very common in the software industry. But when you do that, you need to manage the whole process of distributing these funds, managing the campaigns, managing the reconciliation. So all of those workflows are going to be part of that marketing planning. They are doing some systems are doing a little bit of execution flow as well, from that process perspective. But for the most part, that is going to be planning. But right now, if you look at the maturity of the processes related to marketing, it's very, very, very mature in the market.
What size of company would Anaplan be targeting?
Very
Sam?
enterprise tool in general. Very, very, very enterprise. In fact, I mean, they are known for their massive workload, and we are going to have some data points that we are going to cover. So we are looking at billions and billions of cells of data. So typically the way the planning platforms work, Andy, is you are literally creating the parallel slices of your database, the whole database. Okay. So when you are going to have, let's say, one scenario, one dimension, based on which you are trying to analyze your planning workflow, what if scenario, meaning you are literally duplicating your entire data model. And that's a big deal. ERPs, even though they are going to be transactionally tight, but they don't necessarily explore as tight planning workflows. ERP systems are not designed for planning-centric workflows. Planning is a very different process that gets very thick. At the enterprise level, you are probably, I don't know, sometimes you are going to have, let's say, 100 analyst, and they are trying to forecast, they are trying to analyze the capacity, they are trying to manage the exceptions. Those workflows are very, very, very thick, and they require your processing capacity. Typically for that, that's where your Anaplan is going to be really handy. Any other comments, questions? No? Okay. Let's move to the next one. So overall, I guess one of the things that you are going to notice here, and these are some of the quadrants from Gartner, and now we have started including them as well as part of our analysis. So some of the things that you are going to notice is their comparison with some of the other forms. I know that it might not be as visible, so I'll try to read as much as possible here. So this quadrant that you are looking at on the left side is the financial planning software. So this would be more of the FP&A category or CPM category. Okay, so this is coming from 2022, and the logos that you are going to see here are going to be Anaplan, Oracle. So Andy, that's probably a rough indication there for you that they are competing directly with Oracle. Okay,
Yeah,
so
huge.
Yeah, Anaplan, Oracle, and obviously the adaptive planning, which is the third major player here. Adaptive planning right now is with Workday. So you have Workday here, but seems like Workday is in terms of, I mean, the completeness of vision, I guess they are not there, at least, by Gartner's definition. So they might not be getting as large enterprise logos in my mind. That's why they are slightly behind. But I mean, their focus is slightly different, I guess, right? I mean, they are service centric. They are not as good with the inventory or retail centric planning. So then we have OneStream. We have SAP as well. SAP has the IBP solution, and then you have Planful. Planful is going to appear here because this is the FP&A category. They would not appear in the S&OP category. So that's where the real difference is. So here, Anaplan is probably going to compete with Planful, and then you have some of the Profex as well. They're also your CPM FP&A. Then on the right side, you have the supply chain planning category. In my mind, this is going to be S&OP category. This is also from 2022. So here, the players that you are going to have are going to be the ones that we have been reviewing so far. So here you have Connexus, which we have already called out that Connexus is probably going to be one of the largest competitor for them. OMP is a very enterprise-centric vendor. So OMP is listed as their competitor. And then obviously you have, John Galt. 09 is slightly behind, but they are there. Blue Yonder is definitely in the S&OP play. What else? Gain Systems, E2 Open is there. And interestingly enough, you have Coupa as well there, which is very, very, very interesting. Okay, Coupa has a little bit of S&OP component. In fact, I mean, we are going to review a story today, and that is coming from Thama Bravo, because both of those are in the same portfolio. Coupa has a little bit of Intel, but they don't have the entire S&OP component. But for the complete end-to-end traceability, you require the spend management data as well. And that's why Thama Bravo was really interested in sort of finding synergies between these two. So here you have Logility, which we have already reviewed. Relics, I think we are going to review. We have not reviewed. That is slightly more mid-market solution. Who else did we miss? Infor is really behind, at least from Gartner's definition. They have S&OP play, but they don't have as strong S&OP play.
Way down the bottom left-hand corner there.
Yeah. I mean, they are not pure play S&OP vendor, and that's why they are slightly behind in my mind. Okay, so we have one more. So here now, integrated business planning is another category. Okay, this is also very interesting. So here with integrated business planning, if you really look at the traditional vendors, I think SAP was one of them. They were really known for integrated business planning, and the way SAP likes to propose the architecture, even though it is going to be as part of SAP stack, but they are trying to pitch that, I don't care how many different ERP systems you have, SAP, non-SAP, but you are going to bring all of this data into your IBP platform. That is going to be your joint planning across the enterprise. That's how the IBP solutions were positioned. So here IBP, they are interchangeably used with the S&OP platforms generally. So here you are going to have Connexus of the world, you have OMP, Anaplan. This is very similar to your supply planning. No difference as such. 09 is playing the similar role. Blue Yonder, they are probably going to be IBP as well. But I mean, when you are tight coupling the execution component from the retail perspective, I don't know how the architecture is going to look, to be completely honest, from the IBP perspective. So that would be my concern, that even though Blue Yonder is positioned here, E2 Open is positioned here as well, but that is not the pure play sort of IBP or planning platform, architecturally speaking. So it's very interesting the way Gartner has positioned these. Some more comments coming from Gartner, and they are trying to position this as XP&A. And XP&A is a new category. And basically what this is, most of the planning platforms that we have in the market, they all are trying to consolidate. They all are trying to do a lot more in general. Some are taking the consolidation strategy from the execution perspective. So that's why the supply chain suites are becoming far bigger, right? But then the other strategy that the planning solutions are taking is they are merging other planning categories. So FP&A is merging with S&OP, S&OP is merging with the marketing analytics, workforce analytics. All of those are coming together. So that's what they are saying. XP&A is the evolution of planning, combining financial and operational planning on a single composable platform. Now, composable is a huge topic. Okay. I'm not going to start on that. And Dave is already smiling, I guess.
Well, I mean, you just kind of think about how these functions exist today, and even though there could be some, tool overlap, if you will, it's gonna. This is obviously ideal state, but I think we have a long way to get to get there, because you think about how planning really happens in an organization, and I think this is a challenge. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting how people sort of throw in the composable word everywhere nowadays, to be completely honest, okay? Even though, I mean, from the strategy perspective, to be completely honest, what XP&A does is you are trying to consolidate a lot of different platforms, because integration is very hard. We all know this. And that's why consolidation makes sense. But they will throw in composability, word everywhere, wherever they can. In my mind, it has nothing to do with composability. When you are talking about XP&A platform, to be completely honest. It extends a traditional FP&A solution focused solely on finance into other enterprise planning domains, such as workforce, sales, operations, and marketing. The report also suggests that through 2024, 30% of FP&A implementations will be extended to support operational finance processes, with 50% requiring a substantial XP&A roadmap from the vendor. That's a very interesting comment, to be completely honest. Okay, so if you really think about most of the FP&A platform, do they support operational processes? That could be argued. I don't know if they really cover the sales and operations planning. They don't cover marketing. It's really limited to GLs. That's when your FP&A planning starts. You don't really have any other data sets in most of the FP&A platforms, even the ones that are going to be really heavy. What they are trying to do is they are trying to acquire other companies, and they are trying to integrate these capabilities as part of the same solution. So Andy, they can increase their deal size. Okay, that's how consolidations work. Okay, it has nothing to do with composability, but sure, I mean, this is probably composable now. And roadmap from the vendor, I really don't know if that is true or not. I'll say that. Okay, so some more comments. I mean, this is the picture that you are going to see a lot more overall in Anaplan presentation. So here they are talking about financial planning, operational planning, reporting, analytics and simulation, performance optimization, and strategic planning. And you are covering all of the functions: finance, sales, supply chain, HR, IT, and marketing. Okay, so finance was the traditional function from the FP&A perspective. Sales and supply chain were, and supply chain has a lot of layers as well. So when you look at sales and operations planning, that did not generally cover the supply chain. So supply chain is going to be more from the spend management perspective. That's where Coupa is really handy. So now obviously that data is super important as well. HR was there always, because finance and HR, they go hand in hand. So the majority of the FP&A platform, they had some form of workforce planning in general. If you look at Oracle, they had their ACM, and they were sort of pumping this data inside their FP&A platform. So HR data was always there. Workday, if you look at it, they had HR data, but the traditional FP&A platform, they probably did not have HR data. It was very lean in general, the way their data sets were. So now you are going to get a lot more HR data, from the operations planning perspective. Then they have IT capacity planning, which is very interesting. Not going to be relevant for every single industry, but where you are going to have substantial IT spend, so you need that data as well. And marketing is just mind blowing. Okay, that's where the real cost center is, to be completely honest. And tracking that is always a challenge, especially when you talk about the end-to-end planning from the marketing perspective. Any comments, guys? No? Okay, so I'll read some more comments here. So they are saying Anaplan and Coupa, this is the comment that I was talking about that I'm going to touch, have partnered to provide integrated capabilities that connect forward planning and forecasting with ongoing operational spend management. Operational spend management was the category that was sitting inside Coupa. That's where they have a lot of data to address these challenges. And now, obviously, if you look at the traditional FP&A platform, for the most part, CFOs cared for that. If you talk to CPOs, procurement executives, they didn't understand what FP&A was, to be completely honest. Okay, you might sort of engage with FP&A platform just to submit your budget claims, and you might create budget, but that's the extent. From the operations perspective, you never had that end-to-end planning experience. Once you submit your budget, then you are going to plan on your own in your tool. And Dave probably can relate with that, because you had to do a lot of micro processes, I guess, or micro planning, I would say, for micro operations. Right. So here now we are talking about chief procurement executives being the audience for this platform as well. So Anaplan's financial planning and budgeting solutions to Coupa's business spend management capabilities. Our client companies have a unified view of their budgets, past, present, and future budget data in Anaplan to the order and payment data in Coupa, which then provides a near real-time view of a company's plan versus actuals. And obviously, that's a big deal. So that's the kind of planning that they are trying to communicate in real, in near real time. I would not say real time. It's in real time, near real time. And Planful has been trying to communicate that a lot as well. They use the term continuous planning. Some people use a term called collaborative planning. So you have continuous planning, connected planning, collaborative planning. I think those three terms are used, and they are very meaningful, to be completely honest.
Now, near real time, or do you mean that the data is stored in a data lake or something like that temporarily?
That's a good way of putting. So generally, depending upon the architecture, I would say. So I don't know if every business is going to have a data lake in between. There is a possibility. Okay, for the most part, I mean, when companies buy planning platforms, they always feel that this is probably going to be data warehouse. That's not the role of this platform. Okay, most likely, if you have the scenario related to your data warehouse, then you have to build your custom data warehouse in general, for your organization. So the way the architecture is going to work is you're going to have ERP. You are probably going to have a data lake or data warehouse in between, depending upon how mature you are in your data science processes. And then you are going to have a planning platform. Planning platform can directly consume data from your ERP, or it might consume directly from your data warehouse, data lake, depending upon where are your arrows, I guess, from the architecture perspective. But bringing all of that data inside planning platform could be great, but I mean, they are not meant to be your data storage. They are not necessarily good at cleansing data, I would say. They are really, really good at that planning functionality, but they are not meant to be data warehouse. Yeah. and that's where I guess, I mean, when you look at these architecture, especially when you look at IBP platform, they always try to portray as if your planning platform is kind of a data warehouse, because you are pumping this data pretty much from every single direction. All of your POS, CRM, a lot of vendors are going to have that picture that, okay, you have 50,000 ERP, you can pump all of that data inside your planning platform. Okay, you have CRM, you have POS, you have HCM, you can do that. But for the most part, that's not the intent of these platforms. You would need a data warehouse, data lake in general if you're that big. Customers, I don't have anything else here unless you guys have any other comments. No. Okay, I'll move to the next one. So this is another view of FP&A platform. So I would say, this view in this diagram, they are saying FP&A. So obviously that's one bucket, and FP&A and S&OP, and this is probably the correct representation. So IBP used to mean that you are combining your FP&A and operational planning and analytics, which is probably going to be your S&OP. But then you had some more. For example, you had AI and ML, but I don't think this is done that great, to be completely honest. This is not necessarily a Venn diagram, because this is artificial intelligence and machine learning is probably going to be your technical capability that is going to sit on top of all of this. So I don't know if this is the best diagram that I've seen when it comes to FP&A capabilities. In my mind, FP&A would mean that you have a lot more processes, which is going to be your HR, which is going to be your IT. The previous diagram was far better. But obviously you have AI and ML as well. Now, Andy, you are going to ask, okay, you have AI and ML here. Now, are you going to have AI and ML on top of your data warehouse as well? That is very true. Okay, the AI and ML capabilities that you are going to see as part of this platform, this serves a very different purpose. Okay, so what AI and ML is trying to do here is it's trying to augment your existing data, whatever you might have, and probably forecast some of that data depending upon what planning cycles you are trying to manage and what data you need for your planning. But there might be another data science layer that might be on top of your data warehouse as well. Okay, so these two are different. Typically, the AI and ML capabilities that are going to be bundled as part of your either FP&A platform or S&OP platform, they are probably going to be pre-baked with the platform itself, but you might have your own AI ML that you might develop on top of your custom data warehouse as well. In 2022 Gartner Market Guide for extended planning and analytics solutions, Anaplan is one of the only two vendors to offer pre-packaged solutions for all 5 planning functions. And that's how this Venn diagram should have been, which is your finance, beyond finance, so finance is there, plus sales, plus workforce, plus marketing, plus supply chain and IT. Marketing is probably one of the areas which is not there with any platform. Planful has acquired a company called Plana. That is slightly more marketing spend, but they don't have inventory capabilities as such. They are not necessarily positioned for the inventory-centric organizations. So Anaplan is going to be probably the only vendor which is going to have all 5, and maybe obviously the enterprise vendors, which is Oracle. Okay, then you have... Okay, so one of the things that we have not touched so far is the sales performance management, and sales performance management could be a topic in itself. The way your trade promotions management is, the whole commission forecasting, commission process, impact of commission on territories, creating your pay stubs. That's a very heavy process in enterprises. So again, this is where the power of connected planning is when you get into that deep. Okay, when you are planning the territory for every single sales rep, you are sort of trying to communicate their commission, that this is how your commissions are going to look. Sometimes you need to forecast that as well. Enterprises need planning at that level. Obviously, to get there, you need to figure out, okay, what your territory is going to be in next 5 years. That's the kind of planning that we are talking about. And obviously, one of the things that is not highlighted here is that Anaplan is trying to propose this, that they are doing this in the same cloud native product, okay, single unified code base. And this is where my problem of composability is, because this is not supposed to be composable. This is supposed to be consolidated. So I don't know where composability is coming in, to be completely honest, but everybody's sort of becoming thick, and that's the direction of the market, because that's what works.
It's a buzzword.
It's a buzzword, I'm telling you. Okay, so this is the again, it is coming from Anaplan, and they like to show the slide in general. So in this particular case, you are going to have all of these buckets that you are trying to plan together. Typically, you are using a lot of different applications that might specialize in 1-2 planning or a couple of planning, but Anaplan is able to do all of that. So that is going to be, there are a lot of different layers, right? So we have marketing and trade spend. So we have seen that in a lot of different S&OP platforms as well. You have the inventory planning. Inventory planning is not going to be available with your FP&A platforms. You have targets, quotas, and goals. A lot of CRM systems are trying to do this. So you are going to see that inside your Salesforce. But okay, all of the vendors are going to fight, okay, where this process is going to be. So you need to figure out, okay, who's going to keep that, I guess. Then you have the long range planning. You have revenue planning, forecasting. You have workforce planning. Your ACM vendors are going to fight that they are going to keep that, right? Then you have territory planning. Again, that belongs to your CRM. Sales forecasting, demand planning, S&OP as well. Capacity planning is very different as well. Typically, that resides inside your S&OP platform. Commodity price forecasting is very interesting. Can you believe this? Okay, so that's typically going to be a part of your S&OP platform. M&A modeling, very, 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 very interesting. You are not going to find that with even mature FP&A platforms. So that's very, very, very interesting as well. And if you look at the what is that function called? I'm missing the name right now. What is that? Corporate, Dave, help me out here. The one that does M&A inside companies. What is that? Corporate planning, not corporate planning, right? I mean, okay, we'll come back to that name, I guess. But typically, sorry, I'm talking about the department that is responsible for the M&A function. Typically, they are forecasting, they are analyzing, okay, if I merge this business, okay, what is going to be the impact? So we are really looking at the marriage of the business, forecasting at that level. That planning itself is very, very, very thick. And in general, when you look at any of the Fortune 1000 organizations, they are probably doing 20, 30, sometimes 50, sometimes 100 acquisitions a year, and the deals that they are evaluating is probably going to be 15 times of that. So they are looking at roughly 1,500 deals a year, which is a big deal, and that's a massive spend. So they need to analyze that.
Pretty broad. I'm sorry. Was somebody speaking there?
Yeah. Sorry. What's that?
I thought somebody was speaking. No. Okay, sorry.
No.
I was just saying, very diverse, very broad. Does everything.
Yeah, so this is the intent of planning. I mean, if you look at the enterprise-wide planning, these are different work streams that need to be part of the planning. And in general, when you look at the planning function across different software that we have reviewed, obviously they are all going to fight that, hey, the planning belongs to me. ERP is going to fight, S&OP is going to fight, FP&A is going to fight, CRM is going to fight. So everybody's fighting. But if you're looking for something like connected planning, where all of your planning workloads need to be at one place, this is probably one of the very few systems that can do that. Okay, now this is the acquisition story coming from 2022. So this is now one of the challenges overall from the deal flow perspective, I guess, that Anaplan has had. They were really struggling to win against the prescriptive vendors, and sometimes it's much easier for the prescriptive vendors to win, and the reason for that is because they are going to have a lot more relevant capabilities related to the industries and companies like that, because the consulting cost is not going to be as much when you are trying to develop all of those capabilities. Number one, you require subject matter expertise, and number two, you are going to spend a lot. So you have a real risk of your implementation failure when you are going to buy a platform like Anaplan. So in general, they had to be slightly broader, platform-centric approach, but then they have learned their lesson, and now they are trying to acquire all of those partner add-ons and trying to create the functional capabilities that are easier to sell. So this is that acquisition where they acquired their own partner who had industry-related IP, and now they are trying to sell as part of your Anaplan portfolio so that your time to market is going to be faster, I guess. This is a very similar approach as your Infor, Epicor, ECI, AppChains of the world, the approach that they are taking. So here, and they have used the same term, if you notice. So they are saying Vuelta's, application division, including purpose-built out-of-the-box application for demand planning, supply planning, inventory planning, and sales and operations planning, integrated business planning. So all of that they had for specific industries. The company will add 4 best-in-class applications to its existing supply chain offering, a move that will arm Anaplan customers with greater choice and faster time to value. So any of those purpose-built applications, they are definitely going to have that faster time to value as they respond to the real-world problems impacting their operations today. Okay, so this is the story. We have one more story here related to the coconut water brand. And again, their planning is going to be very, very, very detailed in general. When you get into that food and bev space in general, their planning is very thick. So they are talking about, they had IP for this, right? So they are talking about their industry knowledge. Now, what is that? Vita Coco staff across the globe can now access, share, and analyze planning and supply data quickly and efficiently, which enables prompt decisions and nimble responsive planning. But the intent of this acquisition is really to get those industry capabilities that Anaplan never had. Okay, one more story, and this is the GTC story, and this is probably the poster child, I guess, of Wall Street. It was there, especially during COVID. Now, none of the GTC brands are doing good, to be completely honest, okay? So these guys actually bought Anaplan as well. So here the story is, and I don't know whether you guys are familiar with Allbirds or not. We have covered them in different episodes on WBS Talks too. So this is one of the most highlighted brand, from Shopify perspective. This is probably one of the biggest DTC client for them. So Allbirds has been a proven disruptor in the retail industry since its launch in 2016, known for its comfortable, it's sustainable and natural shoes. So obviously it's a shoe brand. Allbirds has led the path for approaching sustainability. So they are really, getting into that sustainability business, from open sourcing its footprint calculator to creating the world's first carbon zero shoes. Now, in this particular case, they have selected Anaplan and Columbus Consulting. They are big into in that retail space to streamline its supply chain operations, including demand planning and forecasting, inventory planning, and merchandise and materials management. Now, the problem, okay? So in this particular case, yes, you are going to get detailed planning, but are you going to get the kind of planning that you need for a retail business that you are going to get inside your Blue Yonder E2 Open? I would question that, because here you are going to get connected planning, but for retail business, the kind of embedded planning that you need is very different. And that could be one of the reasons why they might be struggling overall from the business perspective, to be completely honest, okay? So here they are saying Anaplan's market-leading planning platform will arm Allbirds with real-time visibility and flexibility up and down its supply chain, ensuring the growing footwear brand can pivot quickly in response to unplanned changes from consumer demand to inflation. Again, planning is not as real time as your execution system is going to be. So that's where the real difference is. And in retail, your embedded planning matters. So for retail businesses, your E2 Opens of the world, Blue Yonders of the world are probably going to be better fit. Okay, Anaplan is a great fit from the planning perspective, but here, what could have been better choice in my mind, at least, is either Blue Yonder, E2 Open, which is going to combine all of those merchandising planning workflows, because that is the bread and butter for a retail business. So even though you are going to get a lot, but you are never going to get the same experience that you will get with those platforms. So managing allocations, now you are going to manage allocations here, replenishment, great idea. But it's going to be a very heavy lift overall from the integration perspective across its distribution centers and stores to have this, business time in its planning cycles, reduce excess or unnecessary cost, and increase forecast accuracy. Again, these are all planning workloads. They are not meant to help you with your real-time execution. Typically, planning and execution, they are completely disconnected. And with retail business, the way their planning works, especially when you talk about the intraday planning for DTC business, it's a very different model. So in that, you have to have that execution component as part of your planning workload. And that's why, again, Blue Yonder, E2Open would have been a better fit for them.
I think another,
Go ahead.
point to make on, especially with a company like Allbirds, Sam, is, they were on, and I don't know about, as we head into this year, right? But they were on just an incredible sales trajectory since they launched. And, so you can have all of the best planning tools in the world. But, the challenge is still balancing, the real world and what's happening. And to your point, the execution behind that. So, I think that's another layer of complexity for a company like this, where you've got this significant amount of growth year over year.
Yeah.
Really makes it challenging, not just from a, what we're talking about from a planning standpoint, and obviously an infrastructure standpoint, from a technology side, right? But all the rest of it, right? The people and process that we talk about to support all of this as well. So a lot of challenges,
Dave,
for a
in my
company
experience,
like this.
when you have that kind of problem, when your sales are really growing, then typically you grow. You don't lose money. Okay. Even if your, infrastructure is going to be really bad. I have seen companies which are really bad operationally, but they might still do good because their sales is really good. Their margins are good. So you don't need to be that efficient. Okay. So that's what I would like to see here when you have such massive growth. But in their case, they are actually losing market share. It's that bad for them. They are going down. So their problem is, obviously, all of that problem is going to be there, but they had such a massive market. But even after that, they failed. Can you believe this?
I think that,
so I don't know if
I know you'll get to it, but I think the other little comparator there in the lower right corner with Warby, I didn't realize that they were on a similar track in terms of not operating.
every single DTC brand out there is struggling. And to be completely honest, I mean, architecturally speaking, they are extremely poor. I mean, they have a lot of data silos. They have a lot of process silos. And it's a lot of churn. And when you have churn, it's very hard to grow, to be completely honest. So that's where, and obviously there are going to be other problems. I'm not saying that this is the only problem that they have, but this is a massive problem. To be completely honest, when you don't really have control on your data, you don't know what is happening inside your business. You are going to make crazy decisions, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you see it in more, more mature businesses from the standpoint of, businesses that have been around for many, many years and decades that still struggle with this. So to layer on the explosive growth into all of that, it just compounds the issue.
Yeah, completely agree. Okay, so if you guys don't have anything else, I'll keep moving here. So overall, I guess, I mean, they
I have
really
a really
struggled in the
dumb
market.
question.
Yeah, please. No questions are dumb, Andy.
No, well, their Allbirds growth was, like 50% per year. It was crazy. Yet now it says they're losing 100 million, net loss of 100 million last year. What happened? I mean, weren't they using these tools for planning and forecasting?
They're using everything, but they're still losing. That's the reality.
I don't know this for sure, Andy, but my guess is if you looked at the results over the course of that, they probably have been eating into those losses. But I think, to kind of Sam's point earlier, especially in this D2C space, which is kind of why I pointed out Warby. I mean, you hear about them quite often in terms of being, kind of the case study, right? And I didn't even realize that they're that they're in a similar boat in terms of net operating. So I think that's the point, though, right? Like, as these businesses are growing, they're throwing money at it and seemingly still not being able to execute behind even having this type of infrastructure and availability to implement these types of tools.
So basically, the growth is hiding all the errors and mistakes in the background.
Yeah, and the other point that you need to think about is all of these vendors are going to highlight their case studies, how good they have done for these brands. But if you look at the overarching picture of the business, I mean, I don't know whether you guys have paid attention to this. They are trading at roughly 10% of the IPO price. Can you believe this? 10% of the IPO price. That's how bad it is.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. The other thing I'd point out, just from a general standpoint, especially when you're talking about venture-backed companies, a lot of, especially the early year, everybody's focused on the revenue growth. How fast can we grow? Not how profitably can we operate? And this is another great example of that thought process, right? And at some point, right, it catches up with you, because at some point you got to make some money.
Exactly.
Or raise another round, I guess.
Yeah. Could not agree more. So if you guys don't have anything, I'll move to the next one. So here we have one more case study, I guess. This is coming from Eco Global Logistics, is a non-asset based logistics company. Here they are talking about, logistics needs of over 35,000 clients, but own no trucks. So this is asset-less business. It's very common in the transportation industry. By working with more than 50,000 carriers, including fleets of all sizes, Eco finds a carrier to deliver a load. And then here they are talking about Anaplan was able to remove complex bonus calculations from the incentive compensation team. Incentive compensation is a team. You need a team to be able to compute all of these bonuses. Can you believe this? Okay, and sometimes that team could be very big, inside transportation industry, because you are computing bonuses for third party, and you need to have the whole reconciliation process. Can you be? So that gets very, very, very complex in general. So that is the kind of workflow that we are talking about. That's where Anaplan is really good. They are saving over 50% of the time spent on the required process. It also gave managers the ability to project their own bonuses based on current trends, as they now have visibility into every calculation that is being made, as well as input options for future months. The annual budget took 6 months of 14-hour days to build in a spreadsheet. They were doing this inside a spreadsheet. Can you believe this? Dave, they need your skills, I guess, to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, that brought powerful computers to a screeching halt. We were still building the budget in March, when leadership wanted January performance data. That's how late they were. Consisting of about 70 team members, can you believe this, who are in constant communication with clients, begin entering information on clients' plans into Anaplan. So you are talking about communication between your clients as well as your carrier. So there is a lot of churn there. They are required to do this monthly. Most of them do it weekly. So this is a great use case for Anaplan. Also input extensive historical data on staff, productivity in Anaplan. Planners know how many loads on Eco operator can arrange daily, how many invoices an account receivable and account payable clerk can process daily. Great. I don't have anything to add there. Yeah, so overall, I guess they had roughly 85% of their SG&A were in the expenses. So that's the kind of planning that they are talking about. And they were able to do all not only expenses but T&E and the professional services spend, which is again a major category for these businesses. So again, I mean, this is where the connected planning is really powerful in my mind. This is a great use case, not the previous one. This is another case study. This is coming for pharmacy chain. And in my mind, I think this is a great case study as well, because here you not only have to collaborate with your internal teams, sometimes these could be internal teams, and you need to share a lot of data for them to be able to plan their stores. So here they are talking about adding increasingly more pharmacies. So this is a pharmacy chain, and locations also added more spreadsheets to its financial planning and required more manual, time-consuming process. Its finance team needed to understand what the numbers meant to the business instead of just pulling the numbers together. The solution, and again, this is all driven by FP&A people. So this is going to be a responsibility of the FP&A person. So again, this is very FP&A centric use case in my mind. Joined this team, she focused on creating a sustainable planning, is what she's branding it as. Tools led to the cloud-based Anaplan platform. Okay, I don't have any. Okay, so one point that I want to touch is currently we are at about 23 gigabytes worth of model size. That's how big these models are. Can you believe this? Okay, we were in Excel and had about 200 sites. Each site had its own tab for an Excel spreadsheet. Obviously, the version control, security, all of those issues are going to be there. You are never going to get that inside a spreadsheet, right? Or you might have a model for that.
All it takes is
that might be another 20 GB.
It happens. Like, that's it. I'm laughing because I've seen it in the real world. This stuff happens, and bad things happen when those things break. So yeah, to your point earlier, this is a great use case, and it's infinitely scalable. They could add another 200 sites and not even blink an eye in terms of being able to support that infrastructure. Imagine if you had that running in a tool like Excel or something that was not, intended to carry this type of planning load.
Yeah, could not agree more. We have one comment from Anders, so we'll cover that. So Anders is saying, saving 50% of the time on bonus calculation. I'm sure a side effect was a reduction in headcount, which probably increased bonuses. Yeah, that's true. Great comment. Okay, so I'll move to some more slides. Okay, so we have one more case study here. So here they are talking about before Anaplan, there was a gap between the design and implementation of HPs. So this is HP's case study. So again, that's hardware sort of firm. They are going to have a retail business model, manufacturing business model in my mind, technology business model, consulting business model. So there's a lot that goes inside HP, I guess. HP's annual territory and quota assignments, disconnected spreadsheet-based planning processes led to unpredictable deployment and a lack of visibility into what was actually implemented in the field. And again, you are going to have massive channel here. So you are not only looking at your own sales reps, you're looking at your channel partners as well. So that complicates planning as well. Collaborate across 20,000 sales managers and hundreds of sales plan. That's the kind of volume that we are talking about. And here you are looking at able to deploy the platform to hundreds of users across more than 50 countries within a matter of weeks and gain sales adoption, something that would have been unheard of prior to Anaplan, and that is possible. Obviously, this is a big deal. Selling it to 20,000 sales managers, that's a big deal. HP has global visibility into quota attainment and sales performance on day one of the fiscal year. The time spent aggregating sales data from a month to 3 days. Sales letters are now sent out in just days instead of weeks. HP's sales team to identify places for improvement or business opportunity. So these are all very FP&A centric scenarios, but this is going to be slightly more compensation planning, which a lot of FP&A platforms might not be able to cover that, to be completely honest. Okay, one more case study here. So this is coming from dairy business. Okay, so this is very interesting as well.
I
So
love that
in this
first
particular
sentence.
case,
Don't let that
what's that?
laid back image of cows in green pastures fool you.
I knew
They
Andy
can't
would touch that.
with that underlying stat next to it, Andy. That's serious business.
The dairy business is fiercely competitive, Andy. Those cows are competitive, okay? So with 1,300 employees and $800 million in annual revenue, so obviously this is a sizable company, tens of millions every year on trade promotions. So this is a very interesting scenario of trade promotions, and that process gets very complicated. We touched this during our last episode as well. So now the responsibility falls under, can you believe, the title is Director of Trade Marketing, Andy. So as Director of Trade Marketing, you are not only going to be responsible for marketing, but you are also going to be responsible for trade reconciliation, which is going to be slightly more finance function. Okay, so this is the whole company that you are running here. So you have to manage the entire process. So Tom's job was to make sure that these dollars deliver maximum value for CAMs and the retailers who serve consumers throughout the upper Midwest. And that's why it gets very complicated. TPM at CAMS relied on manual processes and rigid proprietary and increasingly crash-prone software. For the most part, this is all happening inside a spreadsheet at most of the SMBs. So once you get to $1 billion, that's when you are going to have a lot of issues. Okay, I don't have anything else here unless you guys have anything. Okay, so 628, we'll open up for the comments. Comments or one more slide?
Oh, one more slide.
Comments, right? Okay, yeah. Let's go for comments.
And either way.
Andy, I was just going to say that, those numbers, especially with Albert and Warby, I just can't help but think about AI is becoming Big Brother. Instead of us using some common sense, we're following the calculations that are being done by these huge systems, and they, I assume, almost went out of business.
So maybe tell us more, Andy. So what are you trying to suggest here?
Well,
so AI
saying,
obviously is going to be,
they were from what I read just now, they were blindly following what the connected planning platform was providing for them. Yet they were looking at revenue and not profit.
Yeah, Dave, I don't know if you're going to have any comment on this comment.
Yeah, I think I see what you're getting at, Andy. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, or there's a bit more to that story to unpack in terms of not so much. I think it's a combination of issues, but from a broader perspective, I think it's an issue not just in DDC, but also kind of, a lot of venture-backed companies where the focus is much more revenue leaning than EBITDA, right?
Yeah.
And at some point that has to catch up with you.
Mirrors, though?
What's that?
Isn't that just smoke and mirrors?
Well, I mean, I think it is, but you're also talking to a guy that loves operation, has been responsible, to have to deliver actual EBITDA results. So, that's the, but you could pick a bunch of companies that have a similar model, right? And at some point, the investors hope that flips and they get their infrastructure figured out and that the money is returned, right? So they continue to put in money based on, well, I don't want to take a loss at where I'm at today, so I'm going to put in additional money to hopefully get this figured out. The point I was trying to make earlier in terms of that is, you look at a company like that has this significant trajectory of growth on the revenue side, right? They have the capital to invest in these types of infrastructures, but because they are growing at such an exponential rate, even access to this type of infrastructure, these types of tools, they still have to execute. And if the tools don't give the insights to execute quick enough, right? It's kind of like you're always chasing something. You're always going to be behind. And in that world, the direct to consumer or retail, back to Sam's kind of a broader point, it is such a complex business to begin with, because all it takes is for you to miss forecast on one line of apparel, one shoe, one shoe size, one, color skew, whatever. And now you're sitting on this massive amount of inventory that you're going to end up having to flush through. So me personally, I think it's a combination of things. It's interesting to see that, again, with these types of, tools, access to these types of tools, it's back to the point I think we always make, at least from my perspective, right? The tool's not always gonna be the answer. It doesn't matter if it's AI driven or ML driven or whatever, right? Like, you still have to execute. The tool is the tool, and that's the bottom line. This is an amazing tool for the right sized business, like all of them. There's a lot of capabilities with it. But just because you seemingly buy the biggest, the best, the greatest does not automatically guarantee you success, from an execution standpoint.
Yeah. More comments, guys?
Well, I think that was very short, very quick analogy. Sorry, Dave. What was that?
I said, I think that was enough.
You explained it very, very well. I think an analogy is, obviously I deal with companies evaluating ERP systems all the time, and different target, different industry, different technology, but they're all so focused at the functionality and making sure it does every little thing they possibly could want. How many digits is the part number, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they forget about the simple thing that if you fail to implement it, you fail to use the tools properly, why did you care what the sales demo looked like?
Back to that, and that's a great point, Andy, because I go back to that one slide that talked about, kind of the vendor providing the model in terms of, bringing together all of the connected planning capabilities, right? And that I think that's the perfect connection for me, because, like, who's to say that the vendor has the best, kind of best use case for that scenario when, most of the issues lie in the communication across the organization to begin with, in terms of how can we bring these pieces of data together in a meaningful way to ultimately get to the point that we can execute.
Yeah, could not agree more, guys. More comments, or can we wrap?
No, that's great,
Sam. I think we're good.
Thank you so much.
Okay, perfect, guys. So that's a wrap. If you joined for the first time, this was part of our industry series for which we meet every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you guys are going to be here next week. We are going to come back with another vendor or the solution. On that note, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in tonight.
Thanks,
Happy
Sam.
Valentine's Day.